A few videos ago, I showed you this Boulder, Colorado example and how you can have extensions or connectors between your letters. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to actually animate that. So you can see on this B, I have a little bit of extra length to the B. It's starting way over here, but then it finishes over here. So let's go into that comp and let me show you my keyframes. So we're looking at this part of the B. I'll just hit this little box under the dot, and that means that I'm only going to see this layer. It's soloed. So now you can see that's the only thing that shows up, and that can be a good way to focus what you're looking at. So this end of the line is considered the start of the line, and you can see that it starts, the start of the line starts at the start, so that's at 0%. So I have a keyframe for the start at 0%, and the end is this end of the line. So that started at 0 as well. So I have keyframes for the start and end at 0%, and it animates in because the end of the line is going to 100. So that means the end of the line is going to be 100% through. It's going to be at the end of the actual path. And then you can see that the start of the line is going to end up at 19%, which is right here. So as this animation plays, you have the end going to 100% and the start just going to 19. So while it's animating on, it's also animating off just this little amount. And that's the same thing that I did with the top as well. And then for the connection between my two letters, I have this little line doing a little loop-de-loop, coming up, and then it just disappears. So let's look at those keyframes. So you can see that at the beginning, I have both my start and end set to 0, so nothing is showing. And then the end of the line is going to animate up to 100%, so that means that it's going to be on this end of the path. But then the start is also going to end up at 100%. That means that my line will have disappeared, but it will in that time have traveled through this path. But if you set both the start and end keyframes to start at 0% and end at 100%, and both the keyframes start and end at the same place, and you have the same easing on them, so I'm just going to command click on these keyframes to get rid of the easing, you'll notice that you don't see anything. That's because the start and end are at the exact same place, so nothing shows up. So let me just undo that. And you'll notice that for one, I have different easing on my keyframes. And you can see that here. And I've also staggered the start keyframe so that the start gets to 100% a little bit after the end keyframe does. That way you can see this line kind of grows a little bit and then it shrinks. And then it's disappeared. And that's because it's just a connector between two letters and I don't want it to actually show up in my final design. In my animation of the word lettering, I didn't actually add any extensions or connectors, but now that I see it, I think it could be cool to add a connection at the end of this G that kind of extends past the G and goes into the dot on the I. So I didn't make this line in Illustrator, but it's not too late. I can do it in After Effects. So I'm going to show you that now. So I'm just going to go up to this top toolbar and grab my pen tool. Then just like in Illustrator, I can draw a line. But I don't want this line to have this purple fill, so I'm just going to go up to the top where it says fill, click on fill, and then you'll get this little option box, and you can just hit the no fill button. And I want this to have a 30-point white stroke, so I've already set white in my color picker, and then stroke I can just set to 30. Now you'll notice that it has a butt cap at the end, a flat end, and I want it to have a round end like the rest of my line. So I'm just going to toggle down in my shape layer into Contents, Shape, Stroke, and then change the line cap to a round cap. And if I go and click on the top level path right here where it says Path 1, I can go in and adjust the points on my path. Now if you click the bottom one, the one with the stopwatch next to it, you're going to have your whole path selected and you can move the whole thing. So just be careful that you select the right one for what you want to do. So I'll click on path and then just make this a little more round. So now I'm going to animate this line coming up and then going over to the eye, but also animating the start end of the line off. So it's just like a little streak that goes over to the eye. And so I'm making this a separate piece from my word lettering because I want this end to kind of animate off at the same time as it's animating over to here. So first I'm going to add a trim path to this line. So clicking add and then trim paths. And then let me find out where my lettering finishes. So it's about here. So I'll just set a keyframe on the start and the end of this new extension. Then I'm going to hit U on the keyboard just to give me some more space. And then I'm going to drag the end of the line down to 0%. Then move forward in time, maybe about here. And then the end is going to be at 100% and the start will be also at 100%. And now you're not going to see anything because these have the same easing and they both start at 0 and go to 100. So what I need to do is offset the start of my path so I can just drag both of the keyframes over and now you can see that the line is showing up. So if I just take this start keyframe and put it at the same point as my end keyframe, my line is going to start real small and then grow. And let's make this look a little bit better by adding some easing. So I'll just click and drag over my keyframes, right click, and go to Easy Ease. Let's see what that looks like. Looks a little fast, so I'm just going to select the two end keyframes and drag them out a bit. It's looking better. What if I want my line to be a little bit bigger so it's a little bit more noticeable? If I drag this start keyframe forward in time, you'll see that it makes the line a little bit longer because the start of the line is going to take a little bit longer to animate out. So let me just see what that looks like. And let's make sure that the dot of the eye is not going to come in before the line. So it's kind of as if the line is making the dot come in. And also, if you look really closely, the line is not quite lined up with the dot. So I can actually just go back and adjust my path just a little bit so it lines up better. Maybe about like that. All right, now I want to make sure that the dot on the eye, that those keyframes are starting maybe about here. Let's see if that looks right. Yeah, so kind of like the line comes in and it causes the dot on the eye to come in. I also decided to add an extension to the L so that my animation starts and finishes in a similar way. And I did this extension on the L just the same way as I did the connection between the G and the I. You'll notice that I had to move my layers forward in time to fit in this new animation at the beginning. So go ahead and see how you can add some little interesting connectors or extensions to your letters to make your animation a little bit more interesting.